And they do have a suspect in custody. We've told you it's 24-year-old James Holmes. Our John Ferrugia with the investigative team here at 7 News has been looking into his background and what we know and don't know about this man, John.
Yeah, you know, the interesting thing you just heard that the shooting went on. He said a couple of minutes he heard 30 or 40 rounds, but we know that now the suspect, if it is Holmes, we know that he had 3 weapons. We know he had an assault rifle, a pistol of some type. We don't know if it was a semi-automatic or a revolver, and he also had a shotgun. Don't know if that wasn't left in the car, but he had 3 weapons. And of course, with a high-powered rifle, those rounds would go through the walls into the adjacent theater as well. So we know people were injured in both the theaters. What we do know now about James Holmes, is that he has no criminal record in Colorado. We don't have any sense that he was on police radar for anything at all. No evidence that we found of military service. So we thought about that, and probably many of our viewers thought about that in terms of a person who's 24 years old and thinking, well, you know, he knows weapons and he may know explosives because there was a device that went off, explosive device went off.
Right.
We found no evidence of military service. The Colorado car that police were searching, you saw that car, that white, it looked like a Ford Taurus, I think. Had a Colorado plate on it. That does come back to him, to James Holmes. So that was evidently his car in the parking lot. We found that he's probably grown up on the West Coast. I don't know how long he's been in Colorado, but he lives in an area, and we've seen the police going through that apartment complex. Lives in an area that's rather transient. People in that apartment complex kind of move in and move out. Yeah. So it's hard to tell where he had come from or where he was going. But we do know that he didn't have any police presence in Colorado.
Have you had a chance to look and see what he was doing in Colorado?
We don't know that. We've talked to I talked to a man who lived across the hall on that floor, who was evacuated this morning. Said that he didn't know if this was the same person, but he said he was a single guy about 24, 25 years old, which matches the description, and says he lives by himself. And he said he didn't really know, no one really knows one another, in the hallways in that apartment complex. So it's really a mystery. I mean, at this point, really a mystery what his motive would have been. We do know his parents live on the West Coast. We're endeavoring to contact them, and hopefully they can shed some light on his background, kind of who he is, whether he had any kind of issues.
Did you say his parents are here?
No, they're on the West Coast.
They're on the West Coast.
It looks like he grew up on the West Coast. They're on the West Coast, and we're endeavoring to talk with them.
Yeah, I'm seeing a little bit of Twitter activity from ABC News trying to, saying that the mom at least had been notified, and they were trying to get a hold of her.
Yeah, as are we. So, of course, as we find out more about him, we'll let you know. But I think when you look at a criminal record, no evidence of military service, you kind of start to wonder, well, what made this guy snap? What caused this?
It's interesting to learn that he did have no criminal record, which might explain why he was able to get his hands on those weapons. He didn't have, any kind of red flag out there from people wherever he got the weapons from, in which they would deny him that access.
Right. Well, and that would really only apply to usually to handguns. You can buy long guns, you can buy rifles, but that would apply to a handgun. But yeah, I mean, you could obviously get handguns any place, on the street or legally or illegally.
Right.
But again, he would have no impediment, it would seem, based on our background check, that he wouldn't be able to get any kind of weapon he wanted legally. No issue.
Yeah, and then of course we're left to wonder how much expertise he may or may not have in explosive devices, given there were these smoke grenades or canisters or however you want to describe them. Did he make them himself? Did he know somebody to get his hands on them? That's what police are worried about.
Well, yeah, and by the very fact that you see the bomb squad, the FBI, being very, very careful, as we've seen from the air here, as they're examining this apartment, they must have some reason to believe that he had some expertise in this. Because they're being very, very careful, as you saw, removing the screens from the windows. You have to believe that they know something or have some reason to believe that he had some expertise in this. We were told initially that he was not cooperating. Of course, now he's been in custody several hours. We don't really know what's going on at this point. Of course, police are holding that very close to the vest because they want to interview witnesses and make sure they have the right person. And even though there is no information right now that would suggest there's anyone else involved in this, it's very, very early in the investigation. They want to make sure in interviewing all the witnesses and in interviewing this suspect that they don't come up with someone else who might have been there either observing or in a car or something, and there might be, that might indicate someone else involved.
Plus, who knows if there was somebody else involved in part of the planning process at some point.
Don't know, and may not have been there. But again, police have no reason at this point, and they've re-emphasized this morning again, they have no reason at this point to believe that there was anyone else involved. But again, it's very, very early in the investigation.
Yeah, a lot of things can change.
Yep,
and we've already seen a little bit of that. It's certainly from Aurora Police, as they got a better handle on the situation. At about 4:15 this morning, they said we have 14 dead. Now it's been revised to 12.
Well, you remember those of you and our viewers who remember Columbine.
That happened there too.
Happened there too,
Absolutely.
because people, there's a lot of people in a very chaotic situation. They're putting people in ambulances, and they haven't seen these people before, and some of them may be in a condition where they couldn't tell who the people were or how badly they were injured, and in the count, they might have counted someone twice or thought someone who was deceased was saved, because, you never know.
Yeah, that happens in a lot of, hurricanes, tornadoes,
exactly.
Oklahoma City bombing. Yeah. We've seen that many, many occasions, and it's a good thing, at least that this has at least gone down a little bit.
Yes. Yes, it is.
14.
And John, one positive thing I guess we've also witnessed here this morning is the response. Perhaps there were some lessons learned from Columbine, from these other tragedies that have happened in our state.
Yeah, there's really no question that that Columbine really changed the game for these types of shootings. After Columbine, what is called the active shooter program and active shooter training went into effect. That is, SWAT teams and police no longer surround and cordon off an area immediately. What they do is they go right in, they go after that active shooter to isolate that person and try to protect the people inside. And in this case, Aurora Police evidently did a very good job. They got to the scene very quickly. The gunman was exiting the theater, had a gas mask on when they caught him near the parking lot. So they got there very quickly and really went into the active shooter mode. And that probably, in this case, didn't make a lot of difference in that he had already done his dirty work inside. Right. But again, you don't know. He could have shot somebody in the parking lot. He could have done that, and police certainly prevented that with a very, very quick response.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, if the police hadn't arrived that fast, who knows if he'd have gone into another theater? We don't know.
Yeah. The other thing that was very interesting to me, and that the police said this morning, the Aurora Police said that he offered no resistance when he was arrested. He had a gas mask, he had weapons, but he offered no resistance. You see this in some of these shootings that someone, and I don't know why. I mean, I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but you see this where someone goes in and does this kind of thing and then simply puts down the gun or offers no resistance.
Mission is done.
Yeah, mission's completed, and that's a very strange.
It's almost as though they know it's a foregone conclusion; they'll be caught,
right?
And they don't have any issue with that.
And that's okay with them. That's what's really scary.
And this was well thought out. It was well planned. I mean, he knew exactly what he was doing.
Well, thanks for that update on the suspect. Again, 24-year-old James Holmes, who's in custody. Police working to gather more information about his motive and what else he may have as part of his planning process. Again, we've seen them at his apartment complex over off 17th near Peoria.